Hello, welcome to Steve McDonald's Arts and Crafts. I hope the thumbnail wasn't too clickbaity, but this is a really important message. I will be wearing the correct PPE for this experiment because I don't want to get hurt or anything cause me any problems. I will be testing out several things that you shouldn't be putting in resin, as well as doing a couple of tests on other products to see if you can put them in resin.
I've got my pot of water here just in case anything gets too hot or there's any reactions that I'm concerned about, and I'm just going to pop it straight into this water as well. I've also got a fire extinguisher at hand in case something doesn't go well, and I can just put it out straight away. So let's get on with trying these things.
The first one I'm going to be trying is alcohol ink, and I know a lot of people use alcohol ink and make Petri dishes and things like that, and they do look very pretty. So what I'm doing is I'm just filling up 2 of these old coaster molds with some resin. I'm using Mastercast resin here, which is very similar to the Pro Marine. I'm dropping in the Pinata alcohol ink white. I'm not going to show you the whole process here. I will skip to the finished Petri dish. And then as you can see here, I'm just adding in some blue alcohol, and these are just coming straight out of the bottles. I haven't watered them down or anything. Now, the biggest issue I've heard, and I've heard a lot of people talking about this, is they try and get rid of bubbles with it using a lighter, and all of a sudden they set it on fire. They've used alcohol ink quite a lot in their studio on that day, and they cause a fire. And I have read about and seen as well people who have burnt down their studios or their rooms because of the amount of alcohol and fumes that there are in their rooms. So be very, very careful. Again, as well, when you're spraying alcohol, make sure you're wearing a mask, because breathing in alcohol without a mask is very bad for your lungs. And again, you're filling up the room with alcohol fumes, which can cause problem and a fire. And if you've got a lot of bits of paper or anything around that have absorbed alcohol, you're going to have a fire. This one is going to be using polystyrene. I've heard a lot of people talk about polystyrene in resin, saying it melts or it produces a lot of fumes. Now, I'm not going to be able to see if it's got fumes in it, but I have got a mask on, so if there's any fumes, I should be fine, and I've got really good ventilation. So I'm just going to be mixing that into the resin to see what happens. This is another test, oil paints. I've not used oil paints in resin before, so I'm just using an oil paint here that will squeeze in. Again, I'm using less than 10%. I've not used any more than 10% in any of these. I do find it is taking a bit of time to mix in. It was a little bit clumpy, but other than that, it did mix in and it gave quite an even colour. This one's the dreaded water. Now, everybody talks about don't let water get in your molds, don't let water get in your resin. So what I'm doing here is I'm adding 1 teaspoon of water to see what the reaction is. And there wasn't really too much of a reaction with that, only it made it a little bit milky and cloudy. So let's stick in another 3 teaspoons. It's still less than 10%. And that's about the amount you would put in of watery acrylic paint. And as you can see now, that has gone quite opaque and an awful colour. I'm just adding a bit of baby oil into the resin now, and people use oil for things like mold release and different bits and pieces. So I want to see what the sort of reaction is here. So what we're going to do now is we're going to leave these 4 pots for 5 minutes and then come back to them to see what has happened. So this is 5 minutes, and as you can see, there's been quite a severe reaction with the water. It has got quite warm, and it has turned to what I can only describe it as being like a snot-like consistency. The oil paint really hasn't changed at all. It hasn't sped up the reaction. It's still quite nice and watery. And the same with the oil. There's been no real response with the oil at all. The polystyrene, that has made the water a little bit cloudy. So after 15 minutes, the water has just got really hot and it is just unworkable. And I normally get about 30 minutes pop time out of Mastercast, and it's still quite liquidy. This is just absolutely awful, and it's gone a real strange colour. I'm not sure how it's going to cure or whether it will cure. We'll see that coming up. The oil paint has thickened up, no more than what I would expect any resin that I'd left. And the same with the oil. That has absolutely fine. It's not caused any problems whatsoever. Now, the polystyrene, it has started to melt a little bit, and it has created a lot of bubbles. So we'll leave these overnight and 24 hours, and then we'll come back to them to see what they look like.
These have all cured now. It's been 24 hours, so I'm interested to look at them. The one with the alcohol ink where it caught fire, it has kind of slightly stuck to the mould, and I'm not surprised about that, but nothing too bad. And there was quite a lot of alcohol in there, and that's caused that to be quite fragile even after 24 hours. So I mean, I'm not a lover of alcohol inks in resin because of the fact that it does make the resin a little bit more fragile, and also the colours fade really quickly. The resin just fades. I mean, alcohol inks fade very quickly if you do a picture with them anyway, and I just don't use it. I used to use it a little bit, but I tend to avoid it now. I use proper colours or mica powders. I'm sure there's a lot of people that use alcohol inks in their coasters and things with great success. It's just personally, I don't like it, and I'm sure I'll get some abuse for saying it, but it's just a warning. You know, it will fade really quickly, and that has made that so fragile. This is the water, and it has gone quite hard. It just went awful. I mean, this is why you need to avoid using anything with too much water in it. Certainly acrylic paints that are watery and things like that. You know, it got quite hot in the end. It didn't get too hot that I couldn't hold it, but at least it did cure up. But it did also make it go really white. Look, I'm not sure why. So there we go. That's the water. It doesn't feel sticky at all, and it's completely hard. This is the oil. Now, I used baby oil. Why you would put oil in it, who knows? But the thing is, sometimes there are oil in things that we don't realise when we try and put colours and different things that aren't specifically designed for resin, and as a result, you know, I want to see what it comes out like. And people use oil sometimes as a mould release, but it changed the colour of it, made it go a bit of opaque colour, but it's cured okay. This is the polystyrene. Now, my biggest concern with polystyrene is that it would have released some sort of vapour that you couldn't see. And I have heard people say you should never put polystyrene in resin. I don't know why you would want to, but it has cured. It has cured hard, but what I would say is it created this hundreds, millions of micro bubbles in there. It has also changed the colour of the resin slightly, but as well, it has melted some of these areas on this polystyrene. It's not something I would suggest. This is the oil paint. It's cured up really well. So there we go. The other thing that you should never put in resin is anything that is fresh. So flowers, fruit, strawberries, or anything like that. Now, I've seen lots of people, and they look fabulous on videos, where people have put these fresh roses and fresh strawberries and things like that in resin. But what they don't tell you is that within about a week or 2 weeks, those things will start to rot inside and just turn to a brown mush. And probably within 6 weeks, it will just look absolutely disgusting. It'll just be a pot of mush. So never put anything that's fresh in there. Anything that's dried is normally okay, and it's worth putting in. I can't believe that. I'm so... Can you tell how shocked I am over this? I mean, that is just incredible, isn't it? How fragile and that is. You'd be so disappointed, wouldn't you, if you made these for yourself or made them to sell to someone, and then they come back and said, look what happened, I dropped my coaster and it broke, or it's not cured, or whatever. Now, again, we can all depend on the resin that you use. I used Mastercast for all of these, which is quite a common resin, used quite a lot, very similar to Pro Marine. So this is the results that I got. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any future videos. Check out my membership area. The membership has grown really nicely now. I've got 60 members. We have a great little community on the Facebook group. If you are a member and you haven't joined the Facebook group, check it out. The link is in the community tabs. And please join. And if you'd like to say thank you and buy me a coffee, it really is appreciated. I'm only £65 now away from being able to buy my pressure pot. And once I get the pressure pot, then I'm going to do some videos on is it worth it? Should we buy a pressure pot as a hobbyist? How to use the pressure pot? What difference does it make? But what it won't do is I will still be making lots of videos where I don't use a pressure pot for those people that don't have one. Anybody that donates towards the pressure pot through my Buy Me a Coffee link, which is in the description, their names will go onto the pressure pot in vinyl as a thank you. Take care, enjoy yourself, stay safe, bye.